Hi, I'm Monica Mansfield, and you're watching Mostly Rock and Roll. I have the incomparable Martin Barre with me. I'm so happy to be sitting with you today. Martin, thank you so much for squeezing us into your tour.
It's okay.
Today.
I'm just trying to think what incomparable means. Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
It's a very good thing.
Okay.
You're a very well-renowned musician and guitarist, one of the top names in rock and roll guitar, and you're also a flute player, and you've had a very long and strong musical career. 45 years plus, would you say, in the music world?
It's sort of 50 years.
Wow.
Because I started when I was 14, born in 46, so I started playing in 1960. Guitar, and then professional 5 years later. So it's around the 50 years. Pretty bad, isn't it?
It's pretty
50
great.
50 years.
That's pretty
No,
great.
it's pretty bad. No, I don't want to argue. 50 years of your life playing music is it's good. I'm very happy to have survived 50 years.
We have a lot to be proud of with your career with Jethro Tull, and now that you're playing solo and with a band and touring on your own, there's just so much in your rearview mirror for you to be really, really proud of. What have been some of the biggest joys and greatest moments for you in your past when you look back on it?
I could be a smart ass and say the last gig, which was 2 nights ago, but essentially that would be it, because that was. I've had a great time over the years, and whatever I do, I enjoy. But the thing I'm proud of most is my band, my shows, because I stand and fall by what I do and what I am. So if it's a great audience, it's just like the best feeling in the world. And Tull had that, but when it's a shared experience, you sort of, I don't know what it is, you're sort of at arm's length from the immediacy of the audience and the reaction, and it's sort of there, but you shrug it off because there's a lot of people between you and the audience. So I was part of it, and an important part of it, I hope. But for this, I take responsibility. So when things go wrong, I feel terrible. When things go right, I feel amazing.
What in life brings you the greatest joy?
I love my family. Whatever I've been through, they're the only thing that matter. But that sounds so trite. No,
it doesn't. It's beautiful.
But it is the truth. You've asked me the question, and I would have to say that is a thing that comes before everything. But I love working, and I love playing. So if I've got a guitar, I'm happy. If I can go out for my daily run or whatever it is every 2 days, that makes me happy, because I get a bit of freedom, I get a bit of space, and get my own time. And I enjoy people, and I've never had that. Well, I have had it before, but more than ever, I like meeting fans, I like meeting other musicians.
Mutilated men of action, belly warming, hands still rubbing, on the parts they never mention, salaried and collar scrubbing, yeah. Pacified the nervous suffering, inventing what jokers, TV documentary makers, overfed and undertakers, Sunday paper, backgammon players, from this garden with haters, and then he called the band down to the stage, and he looked at all the frantic mayhem that minister in the gallery looked down on the rabbit run, and then he threw away his looking glass and saw his face in everyone. Down upon the smiling faces, oh, that man stood in the gallery, oh, that man stood in the gallery.
Tell us about the very talented musicians in the band. We have Dan Crisp, your lead singer.
Yeah. Well, Dan Crisp, vocals and guitar, and I've known Dan for sort of a bit over 10 years, and we live in the same area. So, I mean, in the southwest of England, there's a whole bunch of musicians that aren't particularly well known, but they are great players, and it's a sort of little melting pot of good music. I sort of thought about the band and what I wanted to do, and it just became clear that Dan was the person that I needed in the band, and he'd been there all the time, but I'd sort of, you know, when something's that close to you, you don't see it, it's right in front of your face. So it was great, you know, so me and Dan got together and joined the band, and you know, it's got better and better and better. George Lindsay I met through the local studio when I was doing backing tracks, and they just recommended him as being sort of the best drummer that there is, and of course I was very cynical and dubious, and I just sort of said, right, okay, you know, prove it, and they did, and I'm incredibly lucky to have him to myself at the moment. I sort of jealously guard George, and then Alan joined about a year ago and worked with a few bass players, but Alan is sort of a bit like me, you know, he's got a real strong track record, he's got a huge amount of experience, and he's a great guy to have in the band, because when things go tough, he's been there before, so it's not just me. He's a great asset musically and personally as well.
We are now seated with Dan Crisp. And Dan, you are the lead singer for this band, this wonderful band with Martin Barre. How long have you been playing together?
This band's about 4 years old now, 4.5 years old. So we've had a lot of time to sort of grow as a family.
Well, Martin said some very nice things about you, and also the other musicians that you were playing with. But who came to who first? Did you meet him, or did he meet you?
Well, we met socially about 10 years ago, like outside of music. It was just friends of friends and family stuff. And of course, at the time, we was super busy with Tull. And so we would do things musically when Tull took a break, but they rarely did. And so really, we were friends before any of this. And then what happened about 4 or 5 years ago is, of course, Martin wants to do his own project and had a singer and had a band. And so the band's changed over time. And at one point, I just said to him, if you need a singer, I'll do it. And then I got a phone call and he said, would you be interested? And I just said, yeah, of course. Yeah.
Now, you play guitar as well?
Yes. That was the first, that was what I was meant to be doing. The singing was very sort of, because you do that. The singing came after, but really, yeah, I just like playing guitar.
Now, what have been some of the great tales from the road when you've been traveling with these guys?
The best tales probably can't be televised, or at least they're worth saving, they can come out later. It's a lot of it is just all the good stories are the ones where you can't believe it's happening when it happens. It's just too silly, and so at this tour I don't know if anything particularly crazy has happened this tour. Actually, it's been quite boring in terms of you want to hear some really good rock and roll stories, but honestly, this one we kind of just you live between getting in and out of a car and getting in and out of a venue in a hotel, and
that's
and
not
that's
too bad. That's
pretty
not
much
a bad
it.
thing,
And
yeah.
so it's been quite we need to get up to more shenanigans. About your man, hey, I'm doing all that I can. Gonna steal your heart away. Gonna steal your heart away. I wanna steal your heart away. Just to do what I have to say. Told me when I was 5 years old, you gotta be a stone cold killer, son, to get your own soul. Yeah, gonna steal your heart away. Gonna steal your heart away. I'm gonna steal your heart away. It's something I have to say.
I'm gonna steal your heart away.
Are you a good dancer, Martin?
I'm amazing. Yeah, I won awards. Yeah, I was sort of I won an Olympic gold for disco.
Good. See, you
Yes.
could bring disco on stage.
That was
You could bring disco
yeah,
back again.
That was the Olympics of 19. No, I can't. I have no sense of rhythm at all.
That would be a little hard to believe.
No, I've seen other musicians that don't have a sense of rhythm.
Well, it's all at the fingers, so you're concentrating.
Hopefully
it.
it's there, but it's definitely
Yes.
not down there. Yeah.
When you were learning guitar, or even now as you progress in guitar beyond where you are, what have you found to be the most difficult or challenging things for you to master?
Oh, that's quite a hard question because you never ever master anything. I think you just have to come to terms with music, such a huge pool of information, and you'll never get but a tiny little egg cup full from any one part of the pool throughout your life. So I just think it's being selective of where you get your influences, what you need to improve, where you learn from, what you learn. And every other day I hear a guitar player who's phenomenal, and I just know I will never in my life touch that guy.
Really?
But, yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
people say that about you all
Yeah,
the time.
but you know, it's a big scale from zero, from somebody who can just play the open strings to somebody who's, you know, like just amazing, gifted musicians, and there's all those strata in between. And I hear a really good guitar player, and I like melody. I like just sort of subtlety. I don't want speed or flashiness or pyrotechnics. I just look for really great tone, great feel, great melody, great sense of harmony. And the people that I hear, very few of them, that I really enjoy listening to them. And I just think, you know, it's reassuring that there are musicians in that area that aren't just looking to impress and sort of copy somebody else. It's,
Who are a few that have really tickled your musical senses lately?
Well, I'll have to go back to tell you the guitar players I love. Robin Ford, Stevie Ray, Joe Bonamassa, Leslie West, Gary Moore, Mark Knopfler, but they're all people who really understand melody and dynamics, and they're not on 10 the whole time. And the musicians I hate, personally, are just the people who have no sense of letting space exist. I really, I wage war on that sort of music, and I just love dynamics, and I love the idea that you can that the space in between music is as important as the music itself.
I think I heard you do an interview somewhere once where you were saying you were years ago, like in the early years, in a studio laying down a solo track, and you looked up and Jimmy Page was watching you. What song were you doing?
That
at
was Aqualung.
It was Aqualung. That's what I was guessing. That
Yep.
Was that intimidating, or was that kind of really
it was
cool?
just funny. It was cool. Well, the Led Zeppelin were recording in the studio in the basement, and we were in the big main studio. And we'd been there, I think maybe a month, both of us, and we'd never even walked past each other because I guess we were working night and day and they were, so we just didn't cross paths. So after a month of that, knowing they were there, he decides to come into the studio and say hello, and he's up in the control room waving. Of course, I haven't seen you for a month. I'm going, well, I can't really wave back right now. I'm a bit busy. It was funny. It was funny, but they're nice people.
Broken neck, one recession to take stock and rewind. My body was pulled through the dust, and now it's the sun bursting through. I got a grip on ebony, the tension functioned each night. The weight is heavy on my shoulder. Now I'm back to steel. My head has grown weak with time. I need to take stock and rewind. My body was pulled through the dust, and now it's the sun bursting through. There's a bridge to be crossed on 6 saddles of gold. Got a string on my bow. Now I'm back to steal. I got a feeling in my neck. There's something more around here. Broken neck, worry, stress, and friend. Now I'm back to steal. I'm back.
Martin Barre, I cannot thank you enough. You are just a wonderful human being and a very talented individual that it's just a pure pleasure to be sitting here with you and
thank
talking
you.
to you again. Thank you for all you contribute to the world of music for so many of us to enjoy. And I
Very,
wish you
very kind.
very, very much happiness and peace.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mm.